something crosses the road. It's skeletal, like fleshy, and it stands up, and then it like kind of just almost like leaps.
They look back and they see one. Clear as day. It walks 5 feet away from my audio recorder. We just saw a Bigfoot. Holy crap.
I've been pinched, I've been tapped on the shoulder, I've had my name hollered, a hand came up underneath my left arm. I said, little son of a bitch tried to get me. That was the time that I decided you don't sleep inside that building.
Did you see that?
The cow cur, it's big, it's white, and it runs faster than any man could ever run. And it would lean out behind the tree. And that's why we never go out. Because the booger will get you.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Exploring the Unknown. I'm Dustin. Luke, I think your microphone's muted.
I guess I'm Luke.
You're getting good at that.
It's a habit because of the camera.
Yeah, no, I understand. Today, we're joined by someone who has not only had her own Bigfoot experience. Am I correct there when I say that, Amy?
I've had two maybe Bigfoot
Two
experiences. Maybe? Yeah.
That's awesome. And we can definitely dive into that more. But you're also the co-founder of Project Zoobook, right?
Yep.
Okay. I want to make sure I got my facts straight here.
No, I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And just real quick, how do you pronounce your last name? We were talking about that. We're not sure.
It is boo like a ghost, I always say.
I love that. That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. This is, this is a really, I don't know how to put the words together. It's one of those kinds of days, but thank you again.
You're welcome. I'm excited to be here. You gave me a break from cleaning my office, so here I am.
We always need a break.
Appreciate it.
I'm
waiting for my next grandson. He should be here any minute.
Oh my gosh, that's so exciting.
Yes.
So exciting. Now, is this your first grandson, or?
I have one grandson. He's 3, so this will be his baby brother.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, yeah, tell us a little bit about your background. How did you get into, cryptozoology, Bigfoot, all that?
I got into it like just accidentally, really. I say that I have 2 maybe experiences because I'm really not sure. But the first one happened in 2012, and it left such an impression on me, whether it was Bigfoot or not. And the reason I say it was a maybe is because I was in a moving car and you couldn't pull over where we were. And it was at least like 100 yards away, so what it looked like to me was Bigfoot, but I was not into Bigfoot, at that time. And I was like, well, that's crazy. It can't be that. But it left such an impression on me that like within a week, I had started going down the rabbit hole, right? Reading about Bigfoot encounters. And I had no clue that so many people said they were seeing them. So I quickly became fascinated with it. And really, it's not like I said this to myself, but I know now that I really was kind of trying to prove to myself that there couldn't be such a thing, because I'm like, after I yelled out, I think I just saw Bigfoot, I immediately thought that was so stupid. So I was like, well, it can't be that. So what else could it be? But the further I got into this, the more I'm convinced that they're real. So I still call myself a hopeful skeptic because I do have some days left where I'm like, I've never had the smoking gun experience, but I've talked to so many other people and I know of all the evidence that I really do think that they're real. Yeah. And I'm a teacher here in Ohio, and I am also an Ohio certified volunteer naturalist, which I got into because of Bigfoot. So that's a little about me.
That's awesome. That's amazing. So, what's your most compelling evidence that you've come across?
Well, for me personally, I would say two different things. I am a member of the Olympic Project Bigfoot research team that's based out in Washington State. So when I'm out there, I help the team in looking at the ground nests that were discovered out on the Olympic Peninsula. So those nests and all of the footprints and audio and just that whole shebang, to me, are the best, most convincing evidence in one way. Actually, I have three different things. So that would be one. Another would be just the eyewitnesses that I speak to myself. I used to be a member of the BFRO, the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization, but I got out of that to kind of go on my own. But I still take a lot of reports, not for them, but just on my own. And my thing is I go to hunting and fishing shows here in Ohio and Pennsylvania mostly, and I get all kinds of people who are saying they're experiencing these creatures. So it's hard to think that every single one of them is lying or misidentifying something. So those reports, especially from people that come across as absolutely genuine, and you can see how their experience has changed their life, those stick with me. And then the third thing would be just the Native American stories about Bigfoot. I strongly feel that just like how other primates in Africa or Asia, were thought to be cryptids or were cryptids for a long time, and the indigenous people there were just making up stories. I think the same thing is happening here in North America, that we're not listening to what our native people are telling us.
Yeah.
Right. I definitely believe that there's some truth in, the old stories and things like that. Like, I mean, yeah, things are creative, but
Sure.
also that there's some truth to it. There's a reason why they wrote the story the way they did.
I agree.
So tell us a little bit about Project Zoobook.
Sure. We have been in existence since 2018. And until more recently, we've been really under the radar. We still are somewhat, and that's on purpose. That's intentional. It started out when a group of primate zoologists reached out on a Facebook group that I was involved in, and nobody knew who they were. One young lady was kind of the person that reached out, and I asked if I could reach out back to her, and I did. And I found out like within a week or two that that's what she did. She worked for a zoo, and she and several of her coworkers were very, very interested in Bigfoot as a real creature. So I always say, never be afraid to reach out to people, take a chance, because I feel like I hit the lottery and who I came across. I guess when it comes to Project Zoobook, we are what we call a think tank of researchers and scientists all across North America. And if we had all of our scientists that are involved in any kind of way together on one Zoom call, we'd have over 40 different scientists at this point. So it started out with me and that little group of primate zoologists, and I quickly realized that I needed to get them in contact with other people. And we've grown to this really fun, interesting group where basically, like I said, we're kind of a think tank. So every other Thursday night, we have a Zoom call at 8:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, because we're accommodating the people that are over out west. We discuss different topics. We'll have different guests on. We'll have one of the scientists kind of present something that they're, working on. I call myself the coordinator of the smart people, because I'm the one that kind of gets people or tries to get people to come into the group. And then I try to, figure out who's working on this side project, who's working on this side project, who would want to work together. And I just, give them each other's information, and they go to town. So we have some really cool things that are being worked on right now. A lot of very smart people. And I love it. It's one of my favorite things.
That's awesome.
That is awesome. So I'm curious because we get a lot of different stories and things like that, as far as Bigfoot and Sasquatch being associated with the spiritual side of things. Now we've had an encounter where we had witnessed wood knocks and strange lights,
Mhm.
and then we also got a feeling of, hey, you shouldn't be back here. You need to go.
Right?
So
I've been there.
what's your opinion on how people talk about these experiences with Bigfoot and strange lights and
Yeah.
other supernatural things?
Well, I have kind of a standard thing that I say at the beginning of any talk I give. I do a lot of libraries, different conferences, and those outdoor shows, like I said. And what I say basically in a nutshell is that there are all different types of opinions, theories, experiences when it comes to Sasquatch. I am not an expert in any kind of a way. And although my interest, so Project Zoobook, and then just my interest, even outside of that group, is could there be like a living, breathing, earthly uh, creature out there? Like, is that possible? Number one, is it real? Number two, um, that's my interest. So that's what I do. But I don't discount all of the other things. I feel that there could be more than one thing going on. I absolutely believe in things that are not understood. That's what science is, trying to figure out things that are not understood. And paranormal just means it's outside of our normal. So things that we take for granted as being scientifically proven 100 years ago would never even been thought of. So I think that it could be the same thing. People are experiencing different parts of it. I think there could be more than one thing going on. I don't discount it at all, and I think it's interesting. I always say I am more of a chicken when it comes to that. So, like, if I was ever to be convinced that Bigfoot was totally paranormal, I would cheer y'all on, and I would be like interested in finding out what you found or whoever found, but I would probably not be the one out there. And it doesn't make sense. But if I'm in the woods and I know that I'm looking for Bigfoot, even though if I ever came across one, how scary that would be, you can imagine. But I feel okay about that. But as soon as somebody tells me it's haunted, I'm like, okay, I'm out of there. And it really doesn't make sense. It's just my own biases, I guess. But yeah, my interest in my effort is toward, could there be a living, breathing creature, but like normal. I don't know what I'm trying to say. It's not mundane for sure, but you know what I mean? Just a creature like any other. But I don't count out that it could be something else, or that there could be more than one thing going on. I've seen some weird lights out in the woods. One thing I don't understand is why not everybody, a lot of people seem, they're interested in Bigfoot. They go out in the woods, they have a weird experience, and they automatically say it was Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Like if there's other reasons, you found footprints, you see something or whatever, and you can connect those, sure. But I come across a lot of people that no matter what happens, it's Bigfoot. So that I don't really understand, but I don't need to understand it. I've had a lot of weird things happen in the woods, but I don't automatically connect those things to Bigfoot.
Yeah.
If you're not 100% sure, you can't say it's Bigfoot or not.
Right.
That's an issue that we like. I shouldn't say issue, but that's the thing with our experience. Like, we can't 100% say, "Oh, it was a Bigfoot." Like, I saw two what looked like glowing amber eyes, and it was about how would you say 7-8 feet up?
Give or take. I mean, we was at the base of the hill, so I mean, it's probably
It's
gonna
hard
look
to tell,
like
yeah.
this. Yeah.
So I saw like two eyes about like this big, but he only seen the one where he was standing. So I mean, I can't say 100% that's a Bigfoot. But
it's in the running, right?
Mhm.
It's in the running. And if other people have seen Bigfoot in that area or footprints or whatever, like I understand why you might wonder that. That I would wonder that too.
I mean, it's definitely a good habitat, I would say. I mean, there's a water source. It's pretty far back there in the woods, pretty secluded.
Mhm.
The area that he's specifically speaking of, there was actually a dog man encounter that they had aired on These Woods Are Haunted.
Mm-hmm.
How
I'd
do you
say
feel about
exit
dog
stage
man?
left to that.
It
just, you know what it is? Again, I am not saying they're not real. It probably sounds weird, but I absolutely think that there are things out there that we can't prove or, are out of our normal experience, whether you're talking about ghosts or dogmen or whatever. I just don't want to see one. I'm just being brutally honest. Because it doesn't make sense to me. Like it makes sense to me that you could have a creature that looked kind of human, that maybe was an ape, how they behave. But a dog man doesn't make sense to me. Again, it doesn't have to make sense to Amy Boo. Like, who am I? That doesn't mean it is or isn't real. But I think it's just the age-old human thing that if it doesn't make sense, there can be a little bit of fear involved with it. And I have that caution or fear. Like I'll watch a show about it and I'll be sitting there like, ooh, this is good, but I don't want to be involved in it.
Yeah, no, I understand. I've definitely been out in the woods and, my mind gets to wandering and then I freak myself out.
Yeah.
Now this morning I was out there fishing by myself, like 8 o'clock this morning, and there wasn't really anybody around. So I was out in the woods by myself and I got to thinking, I was like, this seems like a place Bigfoot would be. What if I seen a Bigfoot like right now by myself?
Right.
And the thought was not so much like, oh my gosh, what if I, you know what I mean? It's not like I'd freak out or anything. Like I feel like I'd be like, okay, there's Bigfoot.
Oh, I'd freak out. People ask me that because I spend a lot of time in the woods. That's what I do and what I love to do. And they were like, what if one comes walking around the corner? And I'm like, I don't know. I surely, knowing myself and how easily like startled I am, and my brothers would always try to scare me and stuff, and I'd just crumple. I would probably crumple on the ground and cry and all of that. Like I get scared. Hopefully I would get myself together. But, I just think about if I was out there and I met a chimpanzee or something, like that would be terrifying enough, let alone something way bigger.
Yeah.
So, I guess I've come across several bear, black bear. I've seen a few grizzly, but they were further away, so it wasn't so scary. But black bear I've had up close and personal, and I didn't crumple. So maybe I should pat myself on the back for that. They're not really, I know black bear aren't really out to get you,
Right.
For the most part, although they could if they wanted to. So was I uncomfortable? Yes. Was I a little bit worried? Yes. But I didn't crumple. I just kind of, did what you're supposed to do and waited for them to leave. So who knows?
I would expect that it coming from if I see a black bear up in person, I'd be freaked out too.
It was scary. Well, one time I was by myself. I was doing the scenic elk drive in Pennsylvania, out of Snowshoe, Pennsylvania, and I was going to every scenic overlook and, looking at the scenery. And I went down this one trail, and I had just put my camera away and turned around, and I hear this rustling, and here comes a fairly large black bear out of the bushes, and he or she was right in front of me, not even 5 foot, sniffing, all that. And I did not move. People will say, well, why aren't there more pictures of Bigfoot? I didn't move for that bear. I had my camera right in my pocket. I had just put it away. I'm not doing that. I'm not making a move. And so I just remember saying, hi, bear. like thinking, don't hurt me. But it moved the other way. I waited and moved the other way. So you just have to be, I know with black bear, you can try to clap and make yourself big and, get them to go. But it was not, I think I got more scared after the fact. Like in the moment, I was just trying to get that thing to go away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So
that's good. You got to, be able to remain calm in those kinds of
yeah,
situations.
so maybe I wouldn't crumple and cry at a Bigfoot, but I think I might.
So, do you have any like favorite places that you enjoy investigating, or?
I do. I mean, I love Ohio, and I'm not leaving Ohio. My family's here and everything. But if I were going to move somewhere else, it would be out to Washington State because I just adore it there. It's beautiful. Up near Forks is where the Olympic Project's kind of home base is. And when I go there, I just feel like I'm in a fairy tale. It's just the forests there are so beautiful, and the ocean's right there, and so many Bigfoot stories. So I love it when I go there, but I live here and I have a job here and all of that. So I can't get there as often as I'd like. So my main place that I do research is in the Allegheny National Forest in Pennsylvania. And it's beautiful too in its own way. And we have lots of stories there too. So that's where I go camping. That's where I have my like little micro study going on. And I get reports from there all the time.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any evidence or anything that you can share with us from that location?
Well, I think most of the potential evidence are the stories. I mean, some people don't put a lot of stock in that, but I'm like, court cases are brought about because of eyewitness testimony. So I can tell you some stories that I've gotten. Now,
Sure.
I have been in that area doing my micro study for years now, and I don't have anything, too exciting. To me, is it disappointing? Somewhat, but is it okay? Yeah, because you're going to have to be in there for the long term, and then maybe someday you'll get something. I'm okay with that. It doesn't discourage me. It would be the same, one of the primate specialists in Project Zoobook, the curator at a zoo that he used to work for, he had lived over in the Cross River region of Africa on the border of Cameroon and Nigeria, looking for Cross River gorillas, which recently, very recently, in the last, just since this century, we're still thought by most to be cryptids. And he lived there for 8 years, I believe it was, living there, looking for evidence of these gorillas. And he, went out with the indigenous people there. They couldn't find them. Finally, after 8 years, he saw a Cross River gorilla for 10 seconds. Didn't get any pictures, didn't get any evidence of it, but he saw it. He knew they were real. Now we know they are. But it took that long for him to even see one. So, I've had coffee before he passed away. I've had coffee and talked with Peter Byrne several times, and he never saw one. And all that work he did, looking and writing his books and trying to talk to people and figuring the whole Bigfoot mystery out, and he never saw one. So I'm like, if Peter could do it, maybe I'll be like Peter and never get any good evidence, but I'm not going to give up trying. So anyway, I have my study going on, my recorders, everything like that, but I have not captured anything yet. And I'm okay with that, but other people have had really cool things happen. I have one gentleman who lived out or still lives out in PA. And he is somebody that I think about on a regular basis. It was my first time that I ever had done an outdoor show. There's all these hunters and fishermen coming there. And I had no idea how that was going to go, if I was just going to be laughed at, wouldn't get any stories, but I was willing to give it a shot. And I got a lot of stories. So it was a success. But I remember him because he was an older gentleman, and he kept coming to the table, and he would kind of look at what I had there, and he would talk a little bit to me, talk a little bit to my research partner, Tina, and then he would leave. And he did that several times, and he finally came back, and started talking to us. And I believe he talked to Tina a little bit first, and then she called me over. And you could just see the emotion on his face, even when he first started talking about this, about how he had been standing in his living room at his house, and he had looked out the window to his property, and he had seen something that what he described it as was something that shouldn't be there, something that shouldn't exist. And he goes on to describe a Bigfoot, and he knew what he was seeing. It was not a bear. It was not a person. It didn't do anything to him, wasn't aggressive toward him or anything like that. But just seeing it changed his life to the point where he told us that the opening day of deer season was his Christmas since he was a little boy. He would go out to hunt with his grandpa. He would go out to hunt with his dad, brothers, and he loved it. And he said ever since he saw that, he doesn't go in the woods anymore. And it really was not a good thing to him. It was not positive at all. He said he still goes to those hunting and fishing shows. He still buys equipment, but he can't bring himself to go because something that shouldn't exist was there on his property. So I've had several stories like that, and he was shaken up so badly. He said he hadn't talked about this to anybody for all those years, and he was crying a little bit, like teared up a little bit. Oh, wow. And I had another gentleman who came to a talk I gave, and he had I'm sorry, I'm getting that mixed up. He came to the talk after the fact, so that doesn't even matter. This was when I was taking a report from Pennsylvania, and myself and another researcher, she's a bear specialist, a bear biologist from Canada, we went out to take his report together. And he was telling us about what he had seen. He was a foreman for like a construction crew out in that area, and their job at the time was to take down a water tower, like a small water tower, but I believe it was in February, so that some of the water was still in there and it was frozen. So his job was, he was taking the night shift, and he just had to be in his truck and sleeping, and like every half hour an alarm would go off, and he would make sure that the generator was still throwing heat under the water tower so that the ice was, I almost said mice, so the ice was melting. And so he said at one point he was sleeping, and it wasn't the alarm that, woke him up at something that had shoved his truck. So he was like in a whole bunch of blankets and sleeping bags and stuff in there. So he is trying to get out of all of that to see what had shoved his truck. His phone goes flying to the passenger side floorboard, and he's hearing what sounds like footsteps walking away. And he finally kind of gets out of the tangle, and he sees something very large looking down at the fire, the generator throwing the flames up. And when he reached out to try to get his phone, and I don't remember if he was going to take a picture, I'm assuming, I don't remember if he said that or not, but this thing turned and faced him. And he, at this point, describing this to us, started crying again, and this is just a normal guy. And he wasn't sobbing, but he was crying and upset just telling the story. We had sent my bear biologist friend over to stand where he said this thing was, and it was actually when she turned and made that, turn where you could see her silhouette or her body shape, and how small she seemed in comparison to it. And she's 6 foot. That's when he started crying, and he just kept saying how big it was and how big it was. And he went to compose himself for a little bit. And I was talking to his wife. It was himself, his wife, and their dog that were there. And his wife was telling us, that he had had that job for a long time. He'd never missed a day of work in his life that she knew of. And he couldn't go back there for a few days because it so scared him. And that story has stuck with me a long time because, you know, I worry about people making up stories. I know some pretty well-known people here in Ohio who have made up stories and hoaxed things and all of that. So I'm always on the lookout for that. And I think that, I know that that's one reason why I'm still a hopeful skeptic, because people have let me down, I guess, in that area, you know, and I don't want to be tricked. But I remember not just his emotional reaction and his wife's, but I remember the dog and how that dog was like pulling on the leash, trying to get to his master. The dog was whining. The dog was upset. And I'm just like, I don't see how you could fool your dog like that. You know, it was just this very visceral reaction from all of them. And yeah, I think about him a lot too. So you have all of these people that are seeing things in similar areas. I took 6 reports from along the Clarion River near or in Cook Forest. I think it's called the Clarion. My mind, I don't remember things very well. Yeah, in Cook Forest, PA, all from 6 different people that had been canoeing at different times during the same summer and saw something down along the banks of the river, like digging in the dirt, and they all thought it looked like Bigfoot. So there's story after story after story. I just think there's something out there.
Yeah, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of reports that come out of PA.
Mm-hmm. There really are.
Yeah, we've I don't know that we've even talked to anybody that had an emotional reaction, but that's the ones that make you go like, oh my gosh, you know, you've obviously experienced something because you're having a physical reaction to telling the story.
Yeah. And I'll just never forget that dog. I really don't, because I'm like, that dog believes him.
Mm-hmm.
So I think animals know.
That's wild.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
Luke, did you have any other questions for her?
No, you said you're from Ohio, right?
Yeah, I'm in Ohio.
Are you going to the Ohio Bigfoot conference this year?
I might be. You know, I haven't been there since 2018. So I wish I had gone last year because I had a friend who flew all the way out from Washington, Oregon to go there, and I hadn't made it down there. Mm-hmm. But some friends and I might at least go camping and check things out a little bit. So don't be surprised if I'm not going to the conference itself, but I might be in the area just to see friends and stuff. A lot of people go to Salt Fork, and there's a lot of stories from there. Mm-hmm. And I am not saying that there are no Bigfoot there. I don't know. But I have a feeling that, especially when it's around conference time, that a lot of what people are hearing are other Bigfooters. So I take it with a little bit of a grain of salt of things that happen there. Does that make sense? Like, I'm not poo-pooing anybody or anything. I just think my skepticism goes up a little bit.
We talked to someone who's talked about Salt Fork. I can't remember who it was.
Was it Terry?
No. Might have been Gwendolyn.
I was going to say, that was the next person that was going to... Do you know Gwendolyn Purcell?
I do, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I just saw her, was it last weekend? We both spoke at the same thing. So, yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. It's interesting. You know, we've gone to a couple of conventions so far, and the people that we've met in the community, and then we get to talking to other folks, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I know that person." It's like, oh, cool.
It's a small community. It really is. I'm just going to be honest. I've met a lot of drama in the Bigfoot community, so I've stepped away from it a lot. I still do some. Like, I went out. I did the Smoky Mountain Bigfoot Conference last year, which is amazing. I would do that any year they asked me. And I did Squatch Fest out in Washington earlier this year. And I enjoy it. I enjoy seeing my friends. I love Bigfoot. So, you know, that's where you go. But the drama was so intense for a while that I really took like not a step back, but 10 steps back. But now I'm just kind of choosy about what I do for my own peace of mind. And there are a lot of good people. I have to remember that there are, like yourselves. I'm glad to finally meet you.
Thank you.
You know, there are a lot of good people out there as well.
Yeah, we was talking about possibly, hosting our own festival because we're,
Cool.
Southwest PA, and there's not really anything that's going on, over this area. It doesn't
We
seem to
should.
be. So just trying to figure out how that works, and
Yeah.
we have to get in touch with somebody that knows a little bit more about how to get that started.
Yeah, you should do it. That would be cool.
Yeah, we would love to have you though if we do.
Sure. I love it. I love it. I love meeting new people, and I love traveling and stuff. So I'll probably would mix a little bit of Bigfooting in there.
Absolutely. Maybe we can take you to the spot that we go and check out.
Be fun. That would be fun. Now you're talking.
So I do have a question. Where you go camping at? Because it's something that me and my family want to get into this year. Now, is it like a campground or is it just out there?
Just out there. I not that I don't ever go to campgrounds, but my favorite thing is to do more remote camping. Like when I'm out in Washington, we'll just, start hiking in and find a lake and set up camp and fish, and that's what we eat. And that's my favorite thing to do. I mean, where I normally go is not that remote. You can drive into the areas, but I do a lot. You can find old logging roads where you're allowed to camp. I try to be really careful about the laws and everything because I'm, again, a chicken and I don't want to get in trouble.
That was going to be my next question. Like, how do we look into that? Because I want to make sure I'm within,
Yeah, well, you can look up, like, just Google it. That's what I do. You Google, like, what's the term? Like, sometimes it'll say boondocking things or, it's not remote. My gosh, my brain just went. Primitive camping, and so a lot of them are like officially a campsite. Maybe it has a fire ring, but they're not on the beaten path or anything like that. So where I mostly go, there's some old logging roads that are very difficult to get down, and they just have like a couple of sites that are cleared where hunters usually go. So make sure it's not hunting Susan. My gosh.
Yeah.
Season or Susan, hunting Susan, beware of her.
Yeah.
Hunting season. Or wear orange if you need it.
Right.
Yeah.
You got to be safe out there.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay.
I've been doing a podcast and researching Bigfoot. I'm a big hunter myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, what would I do if I'm out in the middle of the woods and I just see a Bigfoot just scroll by? And I was like, I don't know what I would do. I'd be like,
it would be weird. I have a story of one of the other stories I like is a guy, he was culling coyotes here in Ohio, off of some it wasn't like a city, but it was suburban-ish, rural-ish area. There were houses, and he was never thought about Bigfoot, but he came across a 4-foot tall, creamy white kind of creature that he thought was some type of a escaped primate, right? And he wasn't thinking Bigfoot because Bigfoot's really big and it's brown or black, and it took him a while before he reached out because he's like, I just can't explain this. Well, unbeknownst to him, I had another report that same summer where somebody had found some like odd looking footprints a quarter of a mile away from where he saw this creature and interacted with it. Like it was within 50 feet, and it was like, seemed to be really curious about him until he finally left because he's like, I don't know what this is. But, northeastern Ohio and northwest Pennsylvania have a lot of sightings of whitish or cream colored Bigfoot. Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know if it was Bigfoot. I can't say that it was. It was odd. So yeah, we were. I guess that would be northwestern PA. Like What area would that be? Like Benezet area, Elk
Oh
County?
yeah, I
So,
love that. Is that Elk County? That's where that bear came in and said hello to me.
oh, okay. Well, yeah, we do our bear hunting up that way. And there was a year we was up there, and I was on the mountain. I was at the bottom of the mountain. My grandfather was at the top, and we had radios. And I was just sitting there, and they radioed me, and they said, "It's coming to you." So, get ready. I'm like, okay, here comes this bear. Well, it's white. That's not a bear. I didn't get to see it very well, but it came straight down the hill, probably about, 75 yards from me, made a sharp right turn and was gone. And they were like, "It's a wolf." I was like, "I don't know. I don't think there's any wolves up here."
Well, who knows? I mean, you can't have, what do they call that? Not like an albino bear, but there's another term for it where they're light colored. You have cinnamon bears, but you have like a lighter. But I still think you would have known it was a bear. You know what I mean? Just from how I don't know. 600 feet, turn right on. But there are a lot of Bigfoot stories with white or cream colored Bigfoots of all different sizes.
Yeah.
So yeah, hunters. That's why I love going to those shows and talking to hunters, because I feel like the chance, and I might have already said this, so forgive me, but the chance of them mistaking it for something else, or it being something else, and them not knowing what a bear looks like goes down,
Right.
But if you didn't get a good look at it, who knows? It's a mystery.
It is a mystery.
Yeah.
They swear it was a wolf. I asked them, I said, did you see it? And they're like, not really.
Yeah.
Well, then how can you say it was a wolf? Well, it was on all fours. I was like, yeah, well, I mean,
you have Bigfoot sightings on all fours. Yeah, you do. That's exciting.
It was definitely, I'd like to go back and kind of experience, maybe not experience that again, but definitely go back and kind of.
Yeah, I love that area. I like to go there. It's fun.
Yeah.
It's not too far from us.
Not from me either. We'll meet there. Meet in the middle.
Good. That's good. I want to go check out Chestnut Ridge.
Yeah, that's cool there too.
A lot of stories.
I have a footprint from there.
Do
from
you?
1980. Yeah, I have an original footprint from 1980 that Sam Sherry collected from back in the day. It's my prized possession as well.
That's awesome. We talked to a couple of people that one person seen Thunderbird.
Ooh, that would be cool. Now that I would be into. I want to see that.
And then his son or his uncle that had his grandson. I don't know what it was, but it came right up to his back door.
Wow.
Yeah. Looking at his back. Yeah. You know what a rake is?
Yeah. No, I do not want to see that.
Yeah, that's what
I think of any weird, creepy thing out there. That's the worst.
Right.
That or like a creepy puppet. I always say, like, puppet. My biggest fear is Lady Elaine Fairchild from Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood.
Oh my gosh, it's so weird that you bring that up because my daughter was just talking about him yesterday.
Oh, I can't. Like, that is the scariest thing ever. But after that, it's the rake.
The rake, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Luke, did you have any other questions that you would like to? No? All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on. We do have one more thing that we do at the end of our podcast.
Okay.
And we're just starting to get our guests involved with it. And what it is we enjoy doing would you rather questions.
I love this. Okay. I'm in.
So let me get my spooky music.
If it's a puppet, I would not.
Now I got to change the would you rather.
I don't let baby dolls freak out.
Baby dolls are freaky. All right. What happened there? There it goes. The music, it stopped and then played and then stopped. And then stopped again. Oh well. So here it is. Would you rather learn that Bigfoot is real, but the government has been covering it up for decades, or learn that Bigfoot never existed and every sighting was something far stranger that we still don't understand?
I'd rather the government one. Choice one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Why is that?
Yeah. Why would I? Because at least it's real and it's not creepy.
I agree. At least we're somewhat on the right track.
Yeah.
Luke, which one would you pick?
See, I'll go the second one, go by curiosity, because I'd be like, if it wasn't Bigfoot, then what is it?
It's a rake.
Or an alien or something like that. Yeah.
I could do it.
I think we just stick with Bigfoot.
Yeah, I'll make that answer.
I mean, it's funny because personally, like, I do kind of hope that Bigfoot is never figured out and they just stay safe and hidden and everything.
Yeah.
Project Zoobook, we always say one of our goals is that if and when they're ever found out, you know, publicly, that we could just be a part of keeping them safe.
Right.
Hopefully.
I definitely want to keep them safe.
Yeah. It worries me. People say that they go out there to, you know, shoot
kill one. Yeah.
or,
No, we're definitely, that's not us.
Right. Well, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd be too worried. Somebody out there in a gorilla suit or something,
right?
You know, being goofy, and then before you know it, you got a murder on your hands.
Right. You could have that on one hand. You could have like it's the last Bigfoot ever on the other hand.
Right.
You know, just wouldn't feel right.
Right.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with us. We really do appreciate you taking the time to do this. Absolutely.
Thank you.
You're welcome back on anytime. So I think that we'll have to do this again. Maybe we can catch back up. Maybe you get some more evidence and more stories.
Absolutely. That'd be fun. Sure can do it.
Sounds good. Well, thanks so much, Amy. You have a great day.
Guys. You too. Bye-bye. Back to cleaning.
Good luck.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
All right. That was a fun episode.
That was a fun episode.
So how was your fishing today?
It was good. It was good. Like I was saying, I was down there and I started hearing some noises, but I think it was car doors, like that was further down the creek. I didn't see anybody on my way in, but I did end up hearing a car as you know, as I started to wrap things up.
Did you go down to the spot?
I did. There was a ton of people down there.
Surprisingly, because it's like it wasn't a horrible morning, but it was raining.
Yeah. Yeah.
We went up and put the railings up at the house.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, I forgot to give you a call about that.
Chelsea's stepdad helped us, and it only took like 2-3 hours. So
yeah, it don't take long.
Something quick and easy, as long as it passes inspection.
Yeah. Do you want to do the outro?
I will do the outro.
Sounds good.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Exploring the Unknown. Like we said, we really enjoyed talking to Amy, and we would love to have her on again in the future, talk to more of her experiences and evidence she gets. And if you haven't already, please go check out our YouTube, Exploring the Unknown. Subscribe and hit the bell button for notifications. And we were almost at our goal where we could get monetized by YouTube. So if you watch these episodes, thank you. That helps us a lot. And down in the description below, we have a link for GoStop. If you purchase anything through that link, it will help support the show. And we also got a Cash App and PayPal. You can send a small donation there. That is on our website, exploringtheunknownpod.com. And while you get there, go check out our awesome merch. This is one of the it's Richard.
Yeah, I don't have any merch on today. Yeah, you can see it. That looks good, dude. I like it.
And you can get ones without logo and a whole bunch of different t-shirts we got going on over there.
Yes, sir.
That is all for podcast mention.
All right. Well, I think that's it for everything, to be honest with you.
I think it is.
we do our Would You Rather with our guests now, which I like doing. I like
that was
involving
fun,
them. Yeah. That was fun, yeah. But yeah, thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you next week on another episode of Exploring the Unknown.
See ya. Keep exploring the unknown. It's been a while.
It has been a while. Bye, guys.